Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be doing a kind of a different book tag created by Bookborn, who tagged me to do this. She made it a little tough on me because she already took so many of the best names, but I'm going to try to find some really awesome sounding names, and then I'm going to save one for the bonus for the end that I just absolutely hate. So here we go. Alright, so the first series I'm going to pull from is the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, and it's basically all of the Herald names. If you know anything about Stormlight Archive, they all are kind of like palindromes, so they are the same, go in front as backwards. So the two that are really fun to say are Yazeraza and Talanalanat. So that's just really fun. It's kind of like Tylenol said twice. Next, I'm going to pull from the first Law trilogy, and one of my favorite characters from that book also has one of the funnest names to say. Sand Danglocta. Just really rolls off the tongue, and I think a lot of the names I'm going to choose here it's part of their cadence, is like a big part of why I love their names. Sand Danglocta. So number 3 is from the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss, and I actually believe that if this character's name was any, fill in the blank generic fantasy name, the series would not be nearly as popular, even though I still like it. And the name is, of course, Kvothe. Kvothe is so fun to say. It's a brilliant name by Rothfuss. If his name was like Steve or Jack, we wouldn't be talking about the Kingkiller Chronicles nearly as much. That is the hill I will die on. So Kvothe really carries that series. It's a beautiful name. Alright, next I'm going to go to my favorite series currently of all time, which is The Wheel of Time. And it has so many great names, but these are 3 names that I just love to say. Number 1 is Cimaraj, which is one of the Forsaken. And she's not a great person, but her name, Cimaraj. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like a mirage. You throw Simmer on the front, Cimaraj. It's just great. Alright, next up is actually the planned name for my hypothetical daughter, which is Moraine. Moraine is just beautiful to say. It sounds kind of French. French is a beautiful language, whatever you think of the French people. And also you can shorten it to Mora, which is also a really pretty name. So love saying that name, love reading that name, writing it, whatever. It's beautiful. But my favorite name from The Wheel of Time, for whatever reason, is Nynaeve. And it's not the most aesthetically pleasing name I've ever said or read. I think after like a certain amount of books that you read, you fall in love with her character so much that her name gets associated with it. It's spelled kind of oddly. It's really fun. Nobody knows exactly how to pronounce it. Everyone does it differently. But just saying Nynaeve, I think it fits her character perfectly. I love saying it and I love writing it. Next is another protagonist name. Again, it just flows off the tongue, and that is Locke Lamora from The Lies of Locke Lamora. It's alliterative, it's got that cadence to it, and I think it's got like a Locke Lamora, kind of has a jaunty vibe to it, which fits his character and the first book definitely perfectly with this kind of roguish scoundrel kind of character that he is. So Locke Lamora is so fun to say. Okay, next I'm going old school, going back to J.R.R. Tolkien. The man himself, he was brilliant at naming everything. I mean, a lot of the fantasy naming conventions, of course, come from things that are based on his work. So, but my favorite thing, and I'm going to go full nerd here, Mithrandir. I think that's how you say it. Mithrandir. For Gandalf, means the Grey Wanderer. That's what I believe Galadriel and Elrond, the elves, call him that. And it's a beautiful name, Mithrandir. Can't get any better than that. So beautiful. Next is from A Song of Ice and Fire. Now, George R.R. Martin gets a lot of credit, I've seen in some spaces, for his naming ability, and I think it's warranted, but I think it's a little overhyped now. Like, if you look at a lot of the Westeros names, there are things like Storm's End and Winterfell, It's not the most beautiful words of all time. I think they're well named, but a lot of the names in Essos are amazing, like the Dothraki. Volantis, Valyria, things like that. Karth, I love that name. But actually, there's something about just the name Westeros that is so fun to say. I think, again, it's got that cadence to it. Westeros is amazing. But my actual favorite character name is, and you have to say it like Peter Dinklage, you have to get that t. It's Tywin. I'm Tyrion, son of Tywin. The way Peter Dinklage pronounces everything, but specifically his father's name, Tywin. It's beautiful. It captures that character's power, and it's such a solid, kind of like a Viper, Tywin. It's got that to it. I love it. All right, next is from Farseer. I've only read the first book, Assassin's Apprentice, but I loved this character. Probably my favorite character, actually, from the book. And I don't actually know how it's pronounced, but I pronounce it kind of like German. So it's Burich, is how I say it. It's spelled like Burrich, but I say Burich. And in my mind, at least pronouncing it that way, it's a really solid name while also having this rounded compassion to it, which I think completely goes with his character. So I just really love that name, and I think it fits him perfectly. Okay, so the last name that I love in this list is gonna be actually from The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. And there is, I don't know if it's nostalgia, but there's something about saying the name Allegazia that just really works for me. I think it has this sense of wonder to it. It's obviously based on that kind of Tolkien-esque type of naming convention, but Allegazia. It's just great. I don't know, there's kind of like an alligator thing going on with it now that I've said it 2 or 3 times, but it's still really pretty, and I think it fits that world perfectly, and it definitely has this enchanting vibe to it. So, gotta throw a shout out to Christopher Paolini in The Inheritance Cycle. Okay, and so the last thing, real quick bonus name, is a name that I actually just read recently, which was in the Poppy War, that I hated so much. And I'm not even gonna say it because that's why I hate it. So I'm gonna throw it up on screen here, and the way it's spelled is spelled like the derogatory term for a Jewish person. And so I pronounce it CK, and that may actually be how R.F. Kuang, wants you to pronounce it, but just like phonetically looking at it, that's not how it like naturally wants to go in. So I had to like kind of fight as I'm reading to like CK, not, the other word. But anyways, so that is my least favorite fantasy name. So this is a really fun tag. I appreciate Bookborn for tagging me to do this, and I'm going to tag a few more people because I think this would be really fun. Actually, it doesn't take a lot of effort to make this video, but I think it would be a lot of fun, especially if you kind of trying to make sure you're not like duplicating anybody else's words, to really have to go and dig and find some really awesome words, and maybe find some other books that aren't so popular to pull from. And so this could be a really fun tag. So I'm going to tag a few people. I'm going to tag Jake from Men Carrying Thing, Rachel from Shipwrecked Library, Ridima, Liz from Galactic Reads, and Zach from Middle Fantasy. So if any of y'all feel like doing this tag, don't feel obligated, but it's fun to do just to say fantasy words and make a video out of it. So hopefully y'all had fun. Thank you for watching today. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a good one. Peace.